Hello, my name is Karlyn Viña, and I'm the percussion professor here at Shenandoah Conservatory in Winchester, Virginia. I have made this video for you all to share with folks who will be preparing for our upcoming All Virginia auditions next month. I really hope it's helpful for you all. Before we get into any of the details of this year's repertoire, I do want to share with you that for the first time ever, we'll be holding a free All Virginia percussion audition preparation workshop at Shenandoah Conservatory. It's going to be held on Sunday, February 15th from 5 to 7 p.m., which is about 2 weeks before the auditions are held on February 28th. As part of this event, you will have the opportunity to workshop your audition material with me. We'll work through it together. In addition to learning some sight reading tips, some audition tips, just basically everything that will help you be as prepared as possible to play your best in the audition. I've put the link for more info and that free registration in the description below, and we hope to see you there. Well, without further ado, let's get into the music. First up is Snare Drum with an excerpt from Etude number 3 from 12 Etudes for Snare Drum by Jacques Delacluse. And some of the main technical challenges in this excerpt are flams, buzz rolls, and control of these complicated rhythmic passages at different dynamic levels. So let's talk about the flams first. One of the most common issues that I see with flams is that the stick playing the grace note is sometimes too high. If you're having this issue, you might get tangled in some of these rhythmic passages. It's a really good idea to incorporate some flam exercises into your warm-up routine to get more practice with playing flams in a rhythmic context. I'm a really big fan of the flam beat pages from Stick Control or the flam rudiment pages in the Mitchell Peters rudimental primer, both super helpful. And these, by the way, can be practiced at all dynamic levels. The buzz rolls in this passage are mostly loud. They're mezzo forte and forte, except for one quick crescendo roll that you have from piano to mezzo forte. So for this, to make sure you have really nice, smooth, and sustained rolls, I'd recommend working on buzz strokes with each hand individually to make sure that you have nice, long, dense, and full buzzes. This will really help, especially your louder rolls, feel supported and full. I'm using a 16th note triplet roll bass throughout this excerpt. Due to the rhythm surrounding these rolls, you'll likely need to be comfortable playing a 7-stroke roll starting and ending with both hands. So make sure that you've worked on both the left, right sticking and the right, left sticking. A lot of us favor one sticking over the other, but make sure that you're comfortable doing both, because I think you'll need it here. In Delacluse, we always want to exaggerate the dynamic contrast. We should have, opposite ends of the extremes here. I'd recommend thinking of each dynamic level as a number. So in this passage, we have dynamics ranging from piano to forte. So you can think of piano as 1, mezzo piano as 2, mezzo forte as 3, and forte as 4 to help you gauge relative volume levels throughout. There are some tricky rhythmic passages in this excerpt, including moving between the 8th note triplet, the 16th note, and then quintuplet subdivisions. If you're learning this for the first time, I'd recommend practicing these subdivisions first before incorporating the accents that you have. This is in the 5th and 6th measures of the passage, the excerpt that you'll play for the audition. For the embedded triplet on beat 2 of 4 measures from the end of the etude, a lot of people have questions about this one. First, think of how that triplet would be played if it started on the beat. So if it was right on beat 2, the speed of the triplet, or if it was on the and of the beat, which we've been playing those triplets on the downbeat or on the and throughout the passage. That will set the speed of the triplet, how fast it should be played. Then you want to make sure that you're subdividing and starting that triplet on the E of beat 2. If the speed of the triplet is right, and if you start it in the right place, it will naturally release on the of beat 2, and everything will be placed well. Some metronomes can give you the rhythmic outline for this beat, like 16th, 8th, 16th, and that can be a really good way to check in to make sure that you're playing this beat, this rhythm correctly with the triplet that starts on the E. So this excerpt ends with a 4-stroke ruff. I prefer to use an alternating left, right sticking here because to me that helps it feel more emphatic. Whether you're using the alternating sticking or any other sticking, just make sure that the grace notes are leading into the main note in both in volume and in direction, so that it feels you kind of have that excitement of the final gesture here. So on xylophone, we'll be playing an excerpt from a Handel violin sonata that can be found in the Macmillan book, Masterpieces for Marimba. Musically, I think it's really important in this excerpt to make sure that you are feeling the excerpt with a really nice 3/8 meter. So meaning that beat 1 in the meter has more emphasis, and the whole measure should kind of have this sense of roundness to it, not 3 even beats, 1, 2, 3, but 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of stylistically what we want to hear there. I think the sticking indications that Macmillan adds here are good. I followed all of them, all the ones that are printed in the book. It's kind of easy to get tangled in the triplet measures, the second and fourth bars of letter D. So I would just make sure to practice these slowly to work out the choreography. But I think following the sticking that Macmillan puts is a good way to do it. Make sure not to play too heavy throughout this excerpt, keeping in mind that it is adapted from a Baroque violin sonata. I find it's especially easy to play heavier, on the heavier side in the 32nd note passages, so just make sure throughout you're thinking up more than you're thinking down. The trill, 4 measures from the end of the excerpt, should be played between the printed note, which is that G sharp, and the next scale tone, the A. It doesn't have to be super fast. Sometimes we see trill and think roll and think it's got to be as fast as possible. Why don't you try listening to some violinists play trills? Could be in this piece or maybe in other Baroque music to kind of get an idea of how it can sound. Finally, I recommend using medium xylophone mallets here so that you can have a wide dynamic range. Mallets that are too hard will make the piano playing at the end of the excerpt really uncomfortable, and mallets that are too soft may not allow you to reach a real full forte when you want that. So finally, onto the timpani excerpt, which is the ending of number 17 from 32 Solos for Timpani by Alexander Lepac. This excerpt should have an exciting, forward-moving feel to it. Don't get too bogged down in the rhythms or the accents or anything like that. You've got to make sure to start this excerpt at quarter note equals 160, and definitely don't forget to jump to a faster, even more exciting tempo when you get to the vivo. Since we are moving quickly between the 4 drums in this excerpt, it's important to make sure that we have good beating spots. So I would recommend making sure when you walk in for the audition that the drums are set up at a good distance for you before you start playing. And then of course make sure that if you hear something a little funny in your beating spot, look down and adjust as needed. Balance on the drums is another consideration here. Since the drums are all tuned fairly high in their ranges, the higher drums will likely really pop compared to when they're tuned to lower pitches. This means you might want to dig in just a little bit more on the 32-inch drum, especially when it falls on the downbeat, so that it balances well with the rest of the pitches. The last 2 notes of this excerpt are marked marcato and should be the biggest notes that you play in the whole piece. Make sure that you save room in your dynamic range to play this last measure at fortissimo, as it's marked with even extra articulation and emphasis on those final 2 notes. So now that we've gotten through the excerpts, make sure that you've read the percussion instructions and check the diagram, the setup diagram, really carefully. You'll want to make sure to practice with the setup exactly like it's shown in the diagram so you can master all the choreography of performing this. You don't want any surprises on audition day. And even though there are always a lot of notes to learn, don't skimp on practicing your rudiments, your scales, and your sight reading. Those are really important elements of the audition too. Thanks so much for checking out the video. I do hope that you'll join us for the All Virginia Percussion Audition Workshop on February 15th, 5 o'clock. I would love to be able to help you be as prepared as possible for your audition. Happy practicing.